Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, Shape of Your Tree. This is where real people share real stories that are unedited and rooted in truth.
If you've ever read Chicken Soup for the Soul, you know that the power of everyday people is sharing their stories without filters, polish, or pretense. That's what this podcast is built on. Each episode we bring real people, real stories that are candid and unedited. We believe that every person has a tree, branches that represent where they have been, and a shape that reflects who they've become. And sometimes the best way to understand your own tree is by hearing someone else's. I'm Dan. I'm interviewing the host of this for the first episode of The Shape of Your Tree. That host is Denise Golson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Golson, and I am again really excited to bring you the first episode of The Shape of Your Tree.
The Shape of Your Tree is a podcast that is an online social media platform pairing up with a printed publication of The Shape of Your Tree. The Shape of Your Tree is utilizing the same model as Chicken Soup for the Soul platform, but for those of you who have been in and out of addiction and through recovery. This show isn't just stories. It's community. It's connection. It's growth. It's peace. And it's freedom. Today's episode will remind us that even in the moments when our branches feel broken, the roots can still be strong. Their journey touches on resilience, reinvention, and the courage to begin again. We'll let them introduce themselves in their own words.
Again, my name is Denise Golson, and I've been on the road to recovery for quite a while. I just turned 62 a couple of weeks ago. Well, actually, more than a couple of weeks ago, in November. And I am definitely on the road to recovery, and it's been an up and down hill.
Thank you for sharing that. When did you first decide to numb and why?
My memories are sporadic at best. I started checking out, I guess, when I was very young because I started reading books that would take me out of whatever situation I was in, and I would be gone. I was escaping, and that was awesome. I did the same thing with food. Food numbed me out. So I'm not sure which one was first, food or reading, but definitely they were my two biggest ones. Then when I got into after I got out of foster care, well, actually prior to foster care, I was in one home that I started playing sports, and that became another addiction for me. And man, I could get out there and I got my aggression out. They did not want to play with me on the basketball court because, man, it was hips and elbows. And there was when they had the jump balls, and I'm not a tiny person. And so I remember swinging these girls around right and left, and and my hips and elbows, I get a lot of fouls, by the way. I was very aggressive. But I think that was, an addiction for me. So that followed me into a lot of my lifetime. I, shot put and discus. I had that the shot put in my hand, and it was heavy, and it just was satisfying just chucking that because I really could see other people's faces and stuff. So it's like, and you take that, and you take that, and so it was a very aggressive thing, but people didn't realize that I was being aggressive towards other people. I would learn to manage or hide it. I learned to put on a lot of faces growing up, and that was a face that I put on, is that I'm sweet and kind, unless you get me on a sports field, and I was not so sweet and kind, So, yeah, that was one. And then, workaholic. I had all these addictions, but I never really thought they were addictions until I became addicted to substances. And that I didn't start drinking as a numbing out until I was 46 years old. So I was a late bloomer as far as other people that I've been in recovery and I've heard their stories. I was a very late bloomer in the substance abuse. And so, but when I started that, I went downhill fast. And I started with like a shot a day, And then I started writing my autobiography. And when I started writing the autobiography, I just had a little shot to kind of numb me out so I wouldn't feel what I was writing about. And then before I knew it, it was like half a pint, and then it was a pint, then it was a fifth, and then it was a gallon. And I was drinking all of that by myself. And so, and no wonder my liver was like, oh, hell no, I can't do that anymore. So I've had a lot of health issues because of those things. So yeah, I needed recovery.
Yeah. I'm curious, looking back, what was the first time that things were beginning to shift for you?
You know, that's only been in the last 7 or 8 months probably, when I finally realized that I had to take toxic people out of my life. I didn't realize that family, especially close family members, could be toxic for me. And it's been kind of it's been eye-opening for me to understand that I didn't have that need to drink when I didn't have certain family members around me. So that was very eye-opening. And since then, it's kind of like I have this peace and this fortitude. I feel differently. And I can't explain how I feel differently, but going through the recovery process and you know, there's 12 steps for everything. You have alcoholics, you have narcotics, you have sex, you have gambling, you have overeaters, you have so many possibilities of addiction. So, and I probably hit all of those, by the way. A lot of them, the majority of them. And if I didn't curtail myself and check myself into a recovery program, I probably would hit all of them. And I don't really want to do that. So that's why I'm in recovery.
What led you to try and fix things?
I have never liked being a person that was not authentic. I've always loved people,
right,
unless I was in my addiction process, and then I didn't like anybody. I don't know why anybody told me I liked people, because I did not like them. However, if you really know who I am, I love people. I love being around people. But I realized that I need a lot of work moving forward. I have a lot of internal stuff that I'm 60, like I said, 62. And so there's a lot of things that have built up over the years, and sometimes you don't realize how much they have power over you.
Yeah, have you ever thought about forgiving yourself?
That has been the hardest thing for me, because I think part of my issue was that my father wanted me to be perfect. And, you know, according to Christianity, there was only one perfect person, and they crucified him. So why would I ever want to be perfect, by the way? Because I don't want to be crucified. However, saying that, I think I crucified myself every day for years because of my choices, and realizing that I made those choices and that a lot of those choices went against my inner core, which is why I've hated myself, because I knew that I should be doing things differently, but I ignored those things.
That's powerful. Something a lot of listeners might relate to. Have you overcome that?
I'm a work in progress.
Everybody is. Before we wrap up, is there anything you'd want somebody who's living a similar chapter today here to hear?
I think the most powerful thing that I can actually tell somebody is that we're all on a journey, that we all have our own issues, and as different as they might be, they're actually similar as well, and that we all feel like we're not deserving of love or appreciation, or that we have value. And so I think that my goal as a facilitator in this podcast is to bring people an acceptance of themselves and where they are, and a learning to forgive themselves, and getting a bond with their higher power. And in recovery they don't say, they say God as we understand him. So to me, as a higher power, we have something that or someone that we can talk to, believe in, and if we can hold on to that, I think it can help us shape ourselves and get us out of those mindsets that create the negativity, and we can move on through positivity.
Definitely. Well, thank you again for your honesty and courage. I'm sure your transparency will help someone feel definitely less alone today. And if you're listening and you would like to share your own story for a future episode of The Shape of Your Tree, you can submit it to theshapeofyourtree@gmail.com. And also, if you're interested in publishing a story, you can also send it to theshapeofyourtree@gmail.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep discovering the shape of your tree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.